Dive into a magical journey at the Midnight Pumpkin Festival, where little Ruby faces her biggest fears, finds unlikely friends, and unlocks the power of true courage. This enchanting bedtime story will transport children and parents alike to a whimsical world of glowing pumpkins, enchanted melodies, and an unforgettable adventure that teaches the power of empathy, unity, and bravery. Once upon a time, in a cozy little village surrounded by an enchanted forest, there was an age-old tradition, the Midnight Pumpkin Festival. It was a night when the entire village gathered in the heart of the forest under the glow of thousands of magical pumpkins. Each pumpkin glowed with an enchanting light, casting a warm golden glow over the clearing. The forest would come alive with laughter, music, and the delicious scent of pumpkin treats wafting through the cool night air. Ruby, a shy 8-year-old with big curious eyes and a wild imagination, had always wanted to attend the festival. But there was one problem. Ruby was terribly afraid of the dark. The idea of venturing into the forest at midnight, even for something as magical as the pumpkin festival, filled her with dread. She would watch from her window every year, gazing wistfully at the soft glow of pumpkins dancing on the breeze, feeling torn between excitement and fear. This year, however, everything was different. Ruby's grandmother, who had always told her the most amazing stories about her own adventures at the Midnight Pumpkin Festival, had gifted Ruby a special charm. It was a small golden pumpkin pendant. Her grandmother whispered, "This is no ordinary charm, my dear. It will help you find courage, but only if you truly believe in yourself." Ruby stared at the charm for hours that day, feeling a mix of nervousness and hope. And as the sky turned a deep indigo and the first pumpkin lights twinkled in the distance, she finally made up her mind. She took a deep breath, clutched the pendant tightly, and set off toward the enchanted forest, her heart pounding with both fear and excitement. The path into the woods was lined with glowing pumpkins, their smiles bright and reassuring. As Ruby walked deeper, she noticed something strange, a soft, melodic humming, as though the pumpkins were singing to her. She followed the sound until she reached a clearing where hundreds of pumpkins were gathered in a circle, each glowing a different color. In the center of the clearing stood a huge pumpkin, taller than any person, its glow pulsating softly like a beating heart. As Ruby approached, she saw that there was a small door carved into the large pumpkin. Trembling, she pushed it open and stepped inside. To her amazement, the inside of the pumpkin was hollow and filled with the most wonderful sights. There were tiny glowing fairies flitting around, tables overflowing with caramel apples, and steaming mugs of spice cider, and small creatures dancing to an enchanting melody. "Welcome, little one," came a cheerful voice. Ruby turned to see a tiny creature standing on a table. It was a pumpkin sprite, with a body shaped like a small pumpkin and bright, leafy hair. "I'm Pip, and we're so glad you're here." Pip beamed at her, and Ruby couldn't help but smile back, her fear melting a little. "I've never been to the festival before," Ruby said shyly. "I was always too scared of the dark." Pip nodded knowingly. "The dark can be scary, but there's magic in it too. Let me show you." Pip held out a tiny hand, and Ruby took it, feeling warmth spread through her fingers. With a wave of Pip's other hand, the walls of the pumpkin became transparent, and Ruby could see the entire forest bathed in the soft glow of the pumpkins. She saw families laughing, children playing, and even animals of the forest gathered peacefully, watching the festivities. Suddenly, Ruby noticed something. A group of children gathered near the edge of the clearing, looking frightened. A large, shadowy figure was looming near them, its shape dark and menacing. Ruby's heart skipped a beat. "What is that?" she whispered. Pip frowned. "That's the shadow of fear. It appears whenever someone is too scared to join in the magic. It feeds on fear, growing stronger the more people are afraid. But you have something it cannot stand." Pip pointed to Ruby's golden pumpkin pendant. Ruby looked down at the pendant, her grandmother's words echoing in her mind. "Find courage, but only if you truly believe in yourself." She took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the charm against her skin. She knew what she had to do. Slowly, Ruby stepped out of the pumpkin and walked toward the shadow. The other children watched her with wide eyes, their fear palpable. Ruby's heart pounded, but she kept moving, the golden light of her pendant growing brighter with each step. "You don't belong here," Ruby said, her voice trembling but steady. "This is a place of light, of magic and joy. You have no power here." As she spoke, the pendant began to glow even brighter, and the shadow let out a low hiss, shrinking back. The children watched in awe as Ruby stepped closer, her courage pushing the shadow further and further away, until, with a final burst of golden light, it vanished completely. The children cheered, and Ruby felt a rush of warmth and pride, unlike anything she'd ever felt before. She had faced her fear, and won. Pip appeared beside her, clapping his tiny hands. "Well done, Ruby! The magic of the Midnight Pumpkin Festival is stronger because of you. You've shown everyone that even the smallest light can chase away the darkest shadow." That night, Ruby danced with the pumpkin sprites, drank spiced cider, and made friends with the children she had helped. She laughed under the glow of the pumpkins, feeling lighter and happier than she ever had. And when it was time to go home, she knew she would never be afraid of the dark again, for she had discovered the light within herself. And so, the Midnight Pumpkin Festival became not just a tradition, but a story of courage that was told for generations. Ruby's bravery inspired others to face their fears, and every year the forest glowed a little brighter, the shadows kept at bay by the light of those who believed in themselves. Years passed, and Ruby grew up, but she never forgot the night she conquered her fear. She became a storyteller, sharing her adventure with children from all over the village. Every year, she would lead the Midnight Pumpkin Festival, her pendant glowing brightly as she helped others find their own courage. One particularly magical year, a young boy named Oliver approached Ruby. He was small and nervous, his eyes wide with wonder. He had heard her story many times, and tonight he had gathered enough courage to ask if he could join her. Ruby knelt beside him, her heart swelling with pride, and placed her pendant in his tiny hand. "You see, Oliver," Ruby said gently, "courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about facing your fears, even when they seem too big to conquer." Oliver nodded, his fingers curling around the golden pendant. Together, they walked into the heart of the forest, the glow of pumpkins lighting their way. The villagers followed, the air filled with anticipation and excitement. As they reached the clearing, the large pulsating pumpkin stood tall once more, and the door creaked open, welcoming them inside. Oliver took a deep breath, just like Ruby had all those years ago, and stepped inside. The magical sights, the fairies, the dancing creatures, the laughter greeted him, and Ruby watched as his fear began to fade. She knew that this was the beginning of his own story of courage, one that he would tell for generations to come. And so, the Midnight Pumpkin Festival continued, growing more magical with each passing year. The light of the pumpkins grew stronger, the shadows grew weaker, and the courage of the villagers shone brightly, lighting up the enchanted forest with hope, joy, and the magic of believing in oneself. If you enjoyed Ruby's magical adventure, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another bedtime story. Let us know in the comments. What is your greatest courage story? We'd love to hear it.